The tour bus engine is off. The lights inside are the color of a dying ember.
Let's all go down to...
Somewhere on that bus, a man is holding a microphone that isn't plugged into anything, mouthing words to a song he wrote. A song the band still performs without him. He wasn't just let go. He was erased, then missed so badly the very people who fired him had to go find him and ask, quietly, desperately, if he'd come home. This happened more than once in country music. Subscribe now, because before we're done, you'll meet the man whose firing nearly killed the band that fired him, and the tragedy that made them beg him back. The countdown begins now.
Baby, when you touch me.
Number 10. Heidi Newfield, Trick Pony, Poke.
Pour me, pour me, pour me.
Picture a dressing room backstage at a state fair in the mid-2000s. Mirror lights buzzing, a woman's hands shaking as she pulls off stage makeup she knows she won't be wearing again under this band's name. That woman was the voice fans associated most with a group that had, for a moment, owned country radio. And now she was walking out the door of her own creation.
He left, I cried.
Heidi Newfield built Trick Pony's sound with a rasp and a rock and roll swagger that country radio hadn't heard in years. She was the reason casual listeners could pick the band out of a crowded format. But behind the scenes, the balance of power inside a three-piece band is fragile, and by 2007, the fractures that had been forming for years finally split the group apart. She left to chase a solo career, and the band tried to survive without the voice that had defined it. It didn't work the way anyone hoped. A replacement singer came and went. Momentum that once felt unstoppable slowed to a crawl, then stopped. The band that had shared stages with country's biggest headliners found itself playing to rooms that used to sell out in minutes and now just sold. Years later, something changed. Old wounds, given enough time, sometimes scar over into something softer. The three of them found their way back onto the same stage for reunion shows, not out of contractual obligation, but because the audience never stopped asking the question none of them wanted to answer out loud. What happened to the girl with that voice? There's a particular kind of ache in watching a band try to recreate a sound with a piece missing, like hearing a familiar song with one instrument gone silent. Fans felt it before the band would admit it. Pony's chart momentum collapsed almost immediately after Newfield's departure. The band that had 3 straight top 10 singles didn't crack the top 40 again with a new lead voice. The industry rarely tells you this part. Sometimes the star isn't the ego problem. Sometimes the star is simply the sound, and there is no replacing a sound.
Pour me, pour me, pour me.
Number 9. Ray Herndon, McBride and the Ride. Can I count on you?
You can count on me.
A tour bus rolling through Texas at 2 a.m. A guitarist staring out the window at a highway he'd driven 100 times before. Except this time, he wasn't driving toward the band anymore. He was driving away from it, toward a phone call that would change everything he thought his career would look like.
When times get hard.
Ray Herndon co-founded McBride and the Ride and helped shape the vocal blend that made the band's harmonies instantly recognizable on country radio in the early 90s. But in 1994, at the peak of the band's momentum, he made the decision to leave, drawn toward an opportunity to join Lyle Lovett's large band, a move that looked, from the outside, like walking away from a sure thing for a side gig.
Times get hard.
The band pressed forward without him. Lineups shifted. The chemistry that radio programmers and fans had responded to never fully reassembled with new players filling the gap. What had been a tight, three-part harmony machine became something else. Competent, but missing the specific friction and blend that only years of playing together produce. For over 2 decades, that was simply the story. A band that had it, lost it, and moved on. Then, quietly, without much fanfare, the original lineup began talking again. Not about old grievances, about music, about whether the sound they'd built together in their 20s could still exist in their 50s.
What I need to know.
In 2018, McBride and the Ride returned with an album made entirely of songs about family, aging, and coming home. Themes that hit differently, coming from 3 men who had spent 25 years apart before deciding the harmony was worth rebuilding.
Can I count on you?
The reunion wasn't triggered by nostalgia tours or label pressure. It came together after informal songwriting sessions the members didn't originally intend to release, meaning the comeback almost never happened at all, and exists today only because 3 men who once drifted apart accidentally started making music together again.
Will you care?
Number 8. Ricky Lee and Doug Phelps, the Kentucky Headhunters. Dumas Walker.
Down to Dumas Walker.
There's a photograph from the early 90s of 4 young men crowded around a single microphone in a cramped studio in Kentucky, grinning like they'd just discovered something the rest of the world hadn't caught on to yet. 2 of those men were brothers, and within a couple of years, both of them would be gone from the band that photograph helped make famous.
Down to Dumas Walker.
The Kentucky Headhunters exploded out of nowhere with a sound that blended southern rock grit with country roots, and lead vocalist Ricky Lee Phelps, alongside his bassist brother Doug, were central to that voice. But creative tension and management disagreements pulled at the group, and by 1992, both brothers were out, replaced by new members as the band tried to keep its momentum alive.
Oh, down to Dumas Walker.
Doug Phelps didn't disappear. He kept working, kept playing, kept his name attached to Nashville sessions and side projects, all while the band that once felt like family moved forward without him. For over a decade, the split held.
The ski. What is it? Bang it on out to my baby.
Then, in 2003, something shifted. Doug Phelps rejoined the Kentucky Headhunters as bassist, stepping back into a lineup that had spent a decade being the band without the Phelps brothers. He's remained in that seat ever since. A rare case in country music where the door wasn't just reopened, it stayed open for good.
Down to Dumas Walkers.
What makes this story different from most on this list is the absence of bitterness in the retelling. No public feud, no tell-all interview picking apart the wound. Just 2 decades of separate paths that eventually, quietly, found their way back to the same stage. Ricky Lee Phelps never returned. Only Doug did. The band's reunion is permanently incomplete. A reminder that even the stories that end in reconciliation rarely end in the way fans imagine, with everyone standing back on the same stage exactly as they left it.
We'll get a slaw burger, fries, and a bottle.
Number 7. Paulette Carlson, Highway 101, CRY, Cree, Cree.
The creek now, but when the rain comes down, it's
A woman sits in a nearly empty honky-tonk before sound check, running scales, testing a voice that once carried a band's biggest hits. A voice that, for a few years, this same band decided it no longer needed front and center. Paulette Carlson was Highway 101's original lead singer, the voice behind the band's early run of chart-topping singles that helped define a fresh, female-fronted sound in late 80s country. In 1990, at what looked like the height of the band's success, she left to pursue a solo career, and the band replaced her with singer Nikki Nelson, who remarkably kept the hits coming almost without interruption. For a moment, it seemed like the band might not need her at all. That's a particular kind of gut punch in this industry, watching the machine you built keep running just fine without you in it. Carlson's solo career, meanwhile, never matched the heights Highway 101 had reached with her at the mic. By 1996, the band brought her back for one more album, an attempt to recapture the specific chemistry that had made the early records connect the way they did. It didn't fully work. The band's momentum had already shifted, radio had moved on to new sounds, and within a few years, Highway 101 quietly stopped being a going concern altogether. There's something haunting about a reunion that doesn't save the thing it's trying to save. A return that comes not too late for forgiveness, but too late for relevance. The label pushed for Carlson's return specifically because Nikki Nelson-era singles had started underperforming, meaning the reunion wasn't really about mending relationships at all. It was a business decision dressed up as reconciliation, and the band's commercial fate was sealed either way. Number 6. Raul Malo, The Mavericks. Dance the Night Away.
Now she's gone and I'm free.
Somewhere in a hotel room in the early 2000s, a band leader sits with his head in his hands after another sold-out show, exhausted in a way that has nothing to do with the applause still ringing in his ears. He is about to tell the other men in this room that he can't do this anymore. Not won't, can't.
And if she should tell you,
The Mavericks had built one of the most distinctive sounds in country music, blending Tejano rhythm, rockabilly energy, and torch song vocals that made Raul Malo's voice instantly unforgettable. But by the early 2000s, years of relentless touring and internal exhaustion pushed the band toward a breaking point that had little to do with any single dramatic betrayal and everything to do with the slow erosion that comes from never stopping. In 2004, the band effectively dissolved. No dramatic public falling out, no tabloid headlines, just silence, and years of separate solo projects filling the space where a band used to be. Fans who'd fallen in love with that sound were left waiting, uncertain if it would ever return. Then, in 2012, something unexpected happened. The original lineup reconvened, not for a one-off nostalgia gig, but for a genuine second chapter. New music, new tours, a band picking up a story it had set down 8 years earlier and finding it still had something left to say. The music that came out of that reunion didn't sound like a band chasing the past. It sounded like a band that had needed the break to remember why they loved playing together in the first place.
just like the sun.
Malo has said in interviews that the band's original breakup wasn't about money or fame at all. It was about survival. about members needing to step away before the road took something from them they couldn't get back. The industry rarely rewards artists for protecting their own well-being, which makes the reunion, in hindsight, almost an act of quiet rebellion against the machine that nearly burned them out. Number 5. Tim Rushlow, Little Texas. God blessed Texas. A tour bus is parked outside a courthouse, and inside that courthouse, a country band is fighting not over creative differences, but over whether they're even legally allowed to keep calling themselves by the name that made them famous. This isn't a metaphor. This is Little Texas in the late 90s, watching the wheels come off in real time. Just like a miracle. Tim Rushlow's voice had carried the band's biggest hits, an unmistakable tenor that made songs about small towns and heartbreak feel lived in rather than manufactured. But by 1997, health issues affecting his voice, combined with mounting creative tension, led him to leave the band he'd helped front to its biggest successes. What followed wasn't a graceful transition. It was a slow unraveling. The band tried to continue without him, but without the voice fans associated with the songs, the material simply didn't land the same way on stage. Radio interest cooled. Within a few years, the band effectively stopped functioning as a touring recording entity in any meaningful sense. For nearly 2 decades, Little Texas existed mostly as a memory, a name on classic country compilation albums, a group fans assumed had simply ended along with the era that made it famous. Then, starting around 2018, something began to stir. Rushlow rejoined surviving members for anniversary shows, revisiting the catalog that had once defined mainstream country radio, standing again in front of songs he hadn't performed with this lineup in over 20 years. The reunion wasn't framed as a comeback so much as a correction, an acknowledgement that the songs never really worked without him, and everyone involved had spent 2 decades learning that lesson the hard way. During the years Rushlow was gone, surviving members of Little Texas continued performing the band's hits under the same name with an entirely different lead singer, confusing fans who bought tickets, expecting the voice they remembered, and got someone else standing in the same spot on the same stage. Number 4. Richie McDonald, Lonestar, Amazed. Nashville, late 2000s. A man walks out of a studio session that isn't his anymore, into a parking lot lit by a single flickering street lamp, carrying a guitar case, and a career that suddenly doesn't include the band that made his name a household word.
Baby, when you touch me.
Richie McDonald was Lonestar's lead singer through the band's biggest run of hits, the voice behind ballads that became wedding song staples across the country. In 2007, he left the group, drawn by creative differences and a desire to pursue his own projects, including work as a solo artist and producer. The band replaced him and pressed on. It didn't go well. New material with a new lead singer failed to connect with the audience that had built Lonestar's career on McDonald's specific tone and delivery. Radio programmers who had once guaranteed the band airplay started passing. The gap between what fans expected and what the band without McDonald could deliver widened every year he was gone. By 2011, the band and McDonald found their way back to each other, reuniting to perform the catalog fans had never stopped requesting. It wasn't framed publicly as a defeat or a surrender, but the timing told its own story. 4 years is roughly how long it takes an industry to prove to a band exactly how replaceable, or irreplaceable, a single voice really is. The reunion tours that followed leaned heavily into the hits from the McDonald era, a tacit admission from everyone involved about which version of the band the audience actually wanted. Ticket sales and radio requests during the McDonaldless years dropped sharply enough that industry insiders openly discussed the band's viability without him, meaning the reunion wasn't just personal reconciliation, it was survival math done in a boardroom before it was ever done in anyone's heart. Number 3. Marty Raybon, Shenandoah, the church on Cumberland Road.
Surprised that she was standing there crying. Oh.
A courthouse steps, again, because this story, like so many in country music, involves lawyers before it involves apologies. A band stands to lose the very name printed on their tour bus, their merchandise, their entire identity, all while their lead singer is somewhere else entirely, trying to build a new one from scratch. Marty Raybon fronted Shenandoah through its most successful years, a voice steeped in gospel and soul that gave the band's ballads their emotional weight. But by the mid-90s, a legal dispute over the rights to the band's own name spiraled into bankruptcy proceedings that gutted the group financially and emotionally. In the middle of that chaos, in 1997, Raybon left. He didn't vanish. He formed a duo with his brother, chasing a modest hit of his own, while the band he'd left behind tried to rebuild under its damaged name, with different singers stepping into a role that had never really been designed for anyone but him. For over a decade, Shenandoah existed in a kind of limbo, technically active, legally cleared to use its name again, but creatively adrift without the voice that had made its early hits resonate the way they did. In 2011, Raybon rejoined the band, not as a guest, but as its lead singer once again, closing a loop that had opened amid bankruptcy filings and courtroom paperwork nearly 15 years earlier. The Shenandoah that toured afterward wasn't chasing new chart success. It was simply trying to sound, one more time, like itself. The legal battle that triggered the band's collapse wasn't with an outside party. It was over the rights to their own name, a dispute so damaging that at one point Shenandoah couldn't legally call itself Shenandoah and had to tour under a different name entirely while the case played out. Number 2. Larry Stewart, Restless Heart, I'll Still Be Loving You. A recording studio, early 1990s, tension so thick you could hear it on the tape. 5 voices that had built one of the tightest harmony blends in country music were no longer agreeing on much of anything, and the man who'd carried lead vocal duty on the band's biggest hits was about to find himself on the outside. Larry Stewart fronted Restless Heart through a run of #1 singles built on lush, layered harmonies that set the band apart on country radio in the late 80s. But by 1992, internal conflict over direction and control came to a head, and Stewart exited the band, either pushed or walked, depending on which side of the story you believe. The remaining members pressed forward, adjusting their sound to a more collective vocal approach without a single dominant lead voice.
I'll be yours until the sun doesn't shine.
The results were mixed. Some material found an audience, but the band never fully recaptured the commercial peak it had reached with Stewart out front. For years, the group and its former singer existed in separate orbits, occasionally crossing paths professionally, without any real reconciliation.
Day is just a memory to me.
Then, slowly, starting in the 2000s, reunion shows began. By 2017, something remarkable happened. The classic lineup, Stewart included, released a full album together called Wheels, a quarter century after the split, proof that the harmony they'd once built could still exist when everyone finally chose to show up for it again.
See you and
It's rare in this industry for a band to get a second act that isn't just a victory lap, but genuinely new work. Restless Heart got exactly that.
I'll be yours until the sun doesn't shine.
Stewart has spoken about how the years apart weren't defined by public feuding so much as quiet professional distance. The most common ending in country music breakups isn't a screaming match. It's silence that lasts so long, everyone eventually forgets exactly why it started. Number 1. William Lee Golden, The Oak Ridge Boys, Elvira. A man stands in his own front yard in the late 1980s, watching a tour bus pull away without him on it. Holding a guitar and a beard he refuses to shave, because the length of that beard is, unbelievably, part of the reason he no longer has a job in the band he helped build from nothing. William Lee Golden was a founding member of the Oak Ridge Boys. His deep baritone and distinctive appearance as much a part of the group's identity as their multi-platinum harmonies. But by 1987, tension over the band's image, Golden's increasingly rugged look, clashing with the polished country pop direction the others wanted, led to his firing. He was replaced by Steve Sanders, a younger singer who slotted into the vocal blend and helped the band continue scoring hits through the late 80s. For nearly a decade, that was simply the new normal. Golden pursued his own path outside the group, while the Oak Ridge Boys carried on as a quartet that, on paper, looked and sounded successful without him. Then came the part of this story that turns a business decision into a tragedy. In 1995, Steve Sanders left the band amid personal struggles. In 1998, he died by suicide. The Oak Ridge Boys had already reinstated Golden in 1996, before Sanders' death, a reunion driven by growing recognition that the group's identity had never fully recovered from losing him. But Sanders' death cast a devastating shadow backward over everything that had happened in between, a reminder that the human cost of these decisions rarely stays contained to charts and lineup changes. Golden has remained with the Oak Ridge Boys ever since. Decades now, the beard fully intact, the image dispute that once cost him his place in the band, having long since become one of the most recognizable visual identities in country music. What was framed in 1987 as a necessary correction became, in hindsight, one of the most quietly devastating chapters in the genre's history. The Oak Ridge Boys have rarely discussed Sanders' death in connection to the band's history in interviews, a silence that speaks louder than any statement could. Golden's return in 1996 wasn't a triumphant reconciliation story told at the time. It became one only in retrospect, once the full weight of what happened to the man who replaced him came fully into view. 10 bands, 10 voices that walked away, got pushed out, or simply disappeared. And 10 stories that prove the same quiet truth. A band isn't really a name or a logo on a tour bus. It's a chemistry that, once broken, is almost never fully rebuilt, no matter how many years pass or how many apologies get made. Every reunion on this list is really just a letter mailed to a version of the band that no longer fully exists.
Darling, promise.
If this story moved you, tell us which comeback hit hardest in the comments, and subscribe. Because we are not done uncovering these stories.
Baby, when you touch me.
The music never lies, even when the industry does.